It was one of those rare, blissful evenings, the sort that come unbidden yet linger in memory forever. Lenny and I finally had a rare night off together, a precious moment that seldom occurs with our demanding restaurant jobs. We chose to seize the opportunity with a delightful dinner at a lovely restaurant, then ventured to a bar we had heard whispers of but had yet to explore ourselves. The establishment was known as the Misty Shore, a fashionable bar featuring excellent cocktails, fantastic music, and a spacious dance floor. After hearing positive feedback from colleagues and friends, we thought, why not give it a try? Spending time with Lenny transformed my evenings into something special. She possessed a unique talent for transforming the simplest of moments into something extraordinary. That evening held a unique quality. She chose to embrace a bit more freedom than she typically would. Typically, she would confine herself to just a drink or two, but on that particular night, she indulged in 4. I mirrored her drink for drink, and for the first time, we both permitted ourselves to unwind entirely. Lenny maintained his composure even when he drank. She exuded a sense of joy, warmth, and a delightful spirit. The way she smiled at me, the way her eyes glimmered beneath the bar's soft glow, sent my heart into a frenzy. She had always possessed a captivating beauty, yet that night held an undeniable spark between us. We shared a passion for dancing, and as usual, men kept attempting to interrupt, eager to claim a dance with her. As was her custom, she graciously declined their offer. She always kept it low-key, never turned me into a reason for anything, just smiled and replied, "I'm good, thanks." That was one of the qualities I cherished in her. She was not one to engage in frivolous antics or crave the spotlight. As we prepared to depart, she was awkwardly handling her jacket, battling to fit her arms into the correct sleeves. At one moment, she accidentally hit herself in the face with her purse, which triggered a burst of laughter. She stumbled on the pavement, nearly falling into my embrace. "You're my partner, aren't you?" she mumbled as I assisted her into the passenger seat of our vehicle. Amused, I found myself contemplating whether the evening's agenda would transition from romance to ensuring she didn't end up sick in bed. Suddenly, she burst into laughter once more and exclaimed, "I slept with Tyler Jones." I stood still, paralyzed by the moment. "Excuse me?" I glanced in her direction, only to find her head had already drooped to the side. She was completely unconscious. The journey back was quiet, save for the soft murmur of the radio. My hands clutched the steering wheel with an intensity that felt unusual. I felt the urge to rouse her, to shake her awake and insist on an explanation, yet I knew it would be futile. She wouldn't even recall uttering it. Upon arriving home, I assisted her in removing her clothes and gently settled her into bed. Typically, I would have paused to admire her, allowing my gaze to rest on her form as I always had, even after 3 years of being together. Yet, on that particular night, I found myself unable to do so. One question consumed my thoughts. Who is Tyler Jones? I hardly managed to catch any sleep. Meanwhile, Lenny lay unconscious, blissfully ignorant of the tempest she had just unleashed. She remained asleep until nearly midday. At that point, I had already indulged in my 4th cup of coffee, this one enhanced with a hearty splash of whiskey because, really, why not? Lenny wandered into the kitchen, clad in her baggy sleep shirt, her hair tousled and wild. She brewed a cup of coffee before settling into the chair next to me. The quiet lingered in the air, yet I found it impossible to remain silent for too long. "Who is Tyler Jones?" I inquired, my tone steady and measured, while her brow knitted in concern. "What?" "Last night," I remarked, observing her expression intently. "You mentioned that you had an intimate encounter with him." Her eyes grew large with astonishment. I exclaimed, "What?" "That is precisely what you mentioned." She stared at me for a moment, then slowly shook her head. "I was intoxicated," she remarked, gesturing dismissively with her hand. It's amusing how inebriated individuals often express the wildest thoughts. Indeed, I reflected with a touch of bitterness, yet there are moments when inebriated expressions reveal the deepest truths. We lingered in quietude, cradling our coffee as if the world outside had ceased to exist. She cleaned our mugs as she always did, a gesture I once found endearing, but now all I could envision was another's hands gliding over her skin. In the days that followed, an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. In the workplace, we hardly recognized one another. Within the confines of our home, we navigated our surroundings as if we were unfamiliar with one another, coexisting in the same environment. For the first time since we began sharing our nights, an absence of intimacy lingered between us. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself it was insignificant. Perhaps she had merely uttered something foolish in a drunken state, yet my thoughts refused to release it. While at work, I began to observe subtle details. How she stayed at certain tables longer than necessary, chuckling at jokes that missed the mark, offering smiles that seemed overly broad. Perhaps I was overanalyzing the situation, or perhaps I wasn't. At last, I've reached my breaking point. I must understand our position, I remarked one evening following yet another excruciatingly quiet dinner. We need to resolve this, or I'm walking away. Likewise, she retorted, her voice laced with irritation. I'm tired of your constant scrutiny, as if I'm hiding something. Just be honest with me, I urged. She let out an exasperated sigh. I can't even recall mentioning it. But you did say it, I insisted, and sometimes inebriated individuals reveal what they're too afraid to acknowledge when sober. She exhaled slowly, massaging her temples with her fingers. Does it really hold significance if it occurred prior to our marriage? It is important whether it was after, I stated. If that were the case, we would be facing an issue. She paused for a moment, then gave a slight shrug. It seems we find ourselves in a bit of a predicament, as I truly cannot fathom the reason behind my words. That was the end. We encountered an obstacle. For an entire week, our words were few and far between. We shared the same bed, yet maintained a distance that felt like miles. Silence reigns, distance lingers, and bonds fade away. We began commuting to work on our own, a change from our usual routine. What's even more frustrating? I had genuinely intended to surprise her with a car for Christmas, but now everything seemed futile. One morning at the office, I observed another person managing her typical area. Perplexed, I set out to locate our manager. What's the reason behind Katie covering Lenny's tables? I inquired. The manager hardly lifted their gaze. She reported her absence due to illness this morning. She didn't say a word to me. He cast me a sharp glance. Perhaps a conversation between the two of you is in order. I attempted to reach her by phone, but there was no response. By 9:30 that night, I was still waiting for any word from her. That's when they came back to me once more. Just so you know, he said, his voice tinged with caution. Lenny called to resign, stating she won't be returning. It was as if the very earth beneath my feet had suddenly vanished. With my coat in hand, I made my way home without delay. The apartment seemed empty. Several pieces of her clothing had disappeared. The bathroom counter was devoid of her toiletries. I reached out to her parents. Her father responded. Have you received any updates from Lenny? I inquired. Indeed, we possess it, he remarked. Are you aware of her whereabouts? She's likely with Charlotte, he responded. What's happening? I provided him with the concise summary. Resolve it, he stated bluntly. Before the moment slips away. After that, he ended the call. Next, I reached out to Charlotte. No response. I left a voicemail requesting that she have Lenny give me a call. It seemed as though she had taken her step, leaving me in a state of reflection, revisiting each moment, questioning whether I had acted incorrectly, pondering if I had truly lost the love of my life. I removed the sticker from her shirt and grasped it delicately between my fingers. I confess that I missed you, my voice soft, almost a whisper. Lenny's gaze became tender, shimmering beneath the muted glow. I missed you too, she said, moving in closer. But you truly wounded me, Andy. I took a deep breath. I understand. The quiet lingered, heavy with the burden of all that remained unsaid. Come home, I finally said, reaching for her hand. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. I would like to, but I have a question that needs answering first. I nodded, fully aware of the question that was on the tip of her tongue. Did you really? She hesitated for a moment, then inhaled deeply and made another attempt. Were you intimate with anyone during our time apart? I released my breath gently. Negative. A glimmer of relief passed over her features. And you? I inquired, steeling myself. Absolutely not, she replied firmly. I promise you, Andy, I was never unfaithful to you. Neither in the past nor in the present. I would never do that. I yearned to trust her. I truly desired it with all my heart. So, what prompted you to say that? I inquired, my voice trembling slightly. She averted her gaze, a sense of shame washing over her features. I found myself inebriated, Andy. I glanced at that ridiculous sticker, and the words flowed right out. Once more, she locked her gaze with mine. Yet, you chose not to believe me. Your assumptions came far too swiftly. I understand, I confessed, a heavy weight of remorse anchoring in my heart. I simply couldn't rid myself of the uncertainty. It gnawed at my insides, Lenny. She inclined her head with deliberation. I understand. Instead of having a conversation with me, you treated me as if I were a suspect under investigation. You pursued my friends, my family. You went so far as to track down a stranger solely based on his name. I recoiled. When she framed it that way, I came across as completely irrational. In my moment of vulnerability, I confessed my desperation. I believed I was on the verge of losing you. She let out a weary breath, massaging her temples. Andy, I departed because I required some distance. You had doubts about my trustworthiness, and that stung more than anything else. I gazed at the sticker clutched in my hand. And now, I inquired, summoning the courage to lock my gaze with hers. Do you still have feelings for me? Her lips parted slightly, yet a moment of silence lingered before she responded. A moment of uncertainty surged within me, igniting a spark of fear. Come home with me, I urged once more, my voice tinged with urgency. She bit her lip, deep in thought. Not just yet, she finally replied. A sharp pain pierced my chest, yet I nodded in response. Understood. She clasped my hand softly. However, I will give it some thought. The following days unfolded slowly, shrouded in a fog of doubt. Lenny wasn't shunning my presence, yet she also wasn't hurrying to embrace me once more. She approached everything with patience, ensuring that we engaged in meaningful conversation. It's not solely focused on the event, but rather on all the things we had overlooked prior. I came to understand how frequently I had overlooked our relationship, believing everything was okay simply because we weren't arguing. Yet Lenny had experienced solitude. She required more from me, and I was completely oblivious to it. One evening, we lingered in my car parked outside her apartment, engaged in conversation until the first light of dawn began to break. I shared all my thoughts with her. How adrift I felt in her absence. How I had driven myself mad with uncertainties. How I had even thought about gathering my things and departing just to flee the hurt. She wept, clutching my hand as if she feared it would slip away forever. I can't bear the thought of losing you, I murmured softly. You won't, she said, her voice heavy with feeling. However, I require some time, Andy. Just a bit more time. I took a deep breath, yet I nodded in agreement. I shall remain patient. Time slipped by, a week followed by another. Lenny and I continued our conversation, enjoying each other's company. Gradually, the atmosphere shifted from a harsh examination to a sense of familiarity between us once more. On a Friday evening, I returned to the bar where everything began. I wasn't consuming much, merely observing the situation. It was then that I laid eyes on him, Tyler Jones. He occupied the far end of the room, engaging in conversation with a woman who seemed only partially attentive. His body language remained consistent, leaning in closely, showcasing that effortless smile, radiating self-assurance. I observed her pause, weighing the proposal he was presenting. To my astonishment, she smiled and allowed him to guide her toward the exit. I tightened my grip. I had dedicated countless hours fixating on this guy, firmly believing he was my adversary. As I observed him depart with yet another woman, a realization struck me. His significance was negligible, regardless of whether Lenny had been unfaithful, which she had not. It certainly wouldn't have been due to him. It must have stemmed from a fracture in our connection, a result of my shortcomings that I hadn't fully grasped. Yet, we were addressing it at this moment, and that was what truly counted. 2 nights later, a knock echoed through my door. As I opened the door, there stood Lenny, his demeanor betraying a palpable sense of anxiety. "Hey," she whispered gently. "Hello." She inhaled deeply. "I'm prepared to return home." A wave of relief washed over me. She moved closer, embracing me, re-entering my world once more. This time, I would ensure she stayed close. The last several months have proven to be quite challenging. Restoring trust is never an easy task. Yet, we accomplished it, bit by bit, night after night. In that moment, as we stood side by side, more resilient than ever, a singular truth resonated within me. Love is chaotic. It hurts deeply. It's perplexing. Yet when it's genuine, it's worth the struggle. The initial weeks following Lenny's return were tentative, akin to treading on fragile ice that might crack beneath us. We navigated certain subjects delicately, steering clear of past hurts that were still tender. Yet we were making an effort. She began to slip small notes to me once more on the fridge, tucked into my jacket pocket, resting on my nightstand. "Wishing you a wonderful day ahead. Adore you. Make sure to grab your coffee." Minor details, yet they held significance. I found myself observing her occasionally, imprinting the image of her curled up on the couch with a book, the way she hummed softly while preparing a meal. It was as if I was rediscovering my love for her all over again. For the first time in ages, I allowed myself to hope that we could truly succeed. One night, I stirred from sleep to discover the bed was vacant. A surge of panic coursed through me for an instant, but then I caught the gentle murmur of voices drifting from the living room. I crept away silently, tracing the noise. Lenny lounged on the couch, cocooned in a blanket, with her phone pressed to her ear. "No, Mom, I'm fine," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Sleep eluded me completely. A moment of stillness, followed by a breath of resignation. Absolutely, I have deep feelings for him. I never ceased. A tension gripped me from within. I remained hidden, attuned to the sounds around me. "But I feel afraid," she confessed. "What if he loses his trust in me once more? What if he becomes consumed by paranoia, begins to doubt everything around him?" Yet another moment of stillness. I really hope to avoid experiencing that once more. A heavy weight of remorse twisted within me. I had done that to her. Her mother must have offered some comforting words, as Lenny released a gentle chuckle. "Indeed, you have a point. My presence here is a testament to my faith in what we have together." She ended the call a moment later, exhaling deeply as she massaged her temples. I moved ahead. "Do you have faith in us?" She jumped, glancing in my direction. "Is that you, Andy?" I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I said hastily, taking a seat next to her. I simply paused for a moment. That was something I really needed to hear. Her gaze became gentle. "I truly have faith in what we share, yet I require a promise from you." "Anything at all?" Her fingers clenched the blanket tightly. "Cease the skepticism and abandon the tendency to expect the negative." I inclined my head, extending my hand towards hers. "Enough is enough." She studied my face intently for a prolonged moment. At last, she leaned in, her head gently finding a place on my shoulder. I embraced her tightly, inhaling her essence. We were destined to be all right. Moments drifted away. Time stretched on, transforming days into weeks and weeks into months. There were instances of uncertainty, times when past scars loomed large, yet we confronted them side by side this time. I began therapy, not solely for our relationship, but for my own personal growth. I sought to comprehend the reasons behind my descent into such shadowy thoughts, why the fear of losing her had driven me to the brink of ruin. Lenny observed the transformation within me. She expressed that she felt safer and more secure, and for the first time in a long while, I sensed that I was becoming the man she truly deserved. One evening, we returned to the bar where everything began. Lenny surveyed her surroundings, a slight shake of her head accompanying her thoughts. "It has a different vibe now." Indeed, I wore a smirk. "Are there no stickers available this time?" She chuckled softly. I believe we've reached our limit with those. We settled into our familiar place, at ease in the kind of quiet that arises from a deep understanding of one another. Suddenly, from my peripheral vision, he appeared. Tyler Jones. He sat in solitude, cradling a drink at the distant edge of the bar. He appeared, weary. Not the overconfident player I had once envisioned, just another individual navigating through life's complexities. Lenny turned her attention to where I was looking. Do you still believe he was the antagonist? I gently shook my head. No. The anger had faded away. I felt no jealousy. At last, clarity dawned upon me. Tyler had never posed the genuine danger. My personal fears had been. I glanced back at Lenny, observing the warmth of her smile directed at me, the effortless way she extended her hand toward mine. We had arrived. And that was everything that counted. Several months later, on a serene Sunday morning, I gently pushed a small box across the breakfast table. Lenny's eyes widened as she glanced from it to me. Andy, I inhaled deeply. I understand we've faced many challenges, and I acknowledge my mistakes, but my love for you, Lenny, is unwavering, and I am committed to demonstrating that for the rest of my life. With a trembling hand, she lifted the lid of the box, her heart racing as tears welled up in her eyes at the sight of the ring nestled within. I extended my hand towards hers. Would you do me the honor of becoming my spouse? For an extended period, she simply gazed at me. At last, she released a tremulous chuckle. Your intelligence is questionable. A smile spread across my face. Is that a confirmation? She nibbled on her lip, feigning contemplation. In that moment, she propelled herself toward me, her lips meeting mine with an intense fervor. Absolutely. Her breath brushed softly against my lips. Absolutely, without a doubt. Affection can be chaotic. It hurts deeply. It's perplexing. Yet when it's genuine, it's worth the struggle. This time, I was holding on tight.